In part 2 of our Scoreboard app project, we're going to start by declaring our variables that we're going to use to hold and track the team scores. And then we're going to start setting up our app screen and doing the code that will control how our team names and the current scores are being displayed. And we'll add a button to be able to increase or increment that score. All right, let's go ahead and get started. To get started with declaring our variables to hold those team scores, let's tap behind that curly brace at the end of line 3 and then tap return to create a blank line. Let's go ahead and add a comment here on line 4 to remind us what this next block of code is going to be doing. So put 2 backslashes and a space. Those backslashes again remind Swift that this line is a comment for the programmers, not a line of code that Swift needs to act on. All right, let's make our comment here, variables to hold team scores. I'm going to go ahead and close up my app preview screen there to give myself a little bit more space to make my code a little bit larger here on the screen. All right, at the end of line 4, go ahead and tap return. And now we're going to start declaring our variables. To do this, we're going to type the @ symbol and then state with a capital S. Once we see that pop up on our code snippets there, we can tap return. Go ahead and put a space. And then var. Don't worry about all the error messages you start to see popping up. Swift likes us to type maybe a lot faster than what I'm going to be typing here. So these will all resolve themselves here in a minute. All right, next, let's go ahead and use our first variable name. So we've got team1 score. We're typing that in camel case, lowercase t at the beginning, then a capital O, then a capital S. No spaces in between those words. And then we're going to put a space and the equal sign, which will mean that we're assigning a value or setting the value to what we're going to type over on the right side. So put a space. And to start with, it makes sense that we're going to start that score out as 0. So go ahead and type a 0 in there. So we have @state var team1 score is assigned the value of 0. All right, our @state here is really helping us to be able to tell Swift that we want Swift UI to track this variable, team1 score, and to monitor that score so that each time it gets incremented, Swift UI is going to store that new value for us and change our current value of the score. And that @state variable really allows us to be able to make changes to this variable here in this struct or this structure within our code. All right, at the end of line 5, go ahead and tap return. Let's do the same thing for our other 2 team variables. So we're going to start with the @ symbol and state with a capital S. Again, we can tap return when we see that code snippet pop up, a space, and then var, and our name for our second team variable, which is team2 score, space, and then the equal sign, which means we're going to assign a value or set the value to what we're going to type over here on the right side. So space, and again a 0. Makes sense for us to start this team at 0 as well, just to be fair. All right, go ahead and tap return again, and one more time, the @ symbol, state with a capital S, then var, and now team3 score, space, the equal sign to mean assign the value, or set the value to what we're going to type on the right side here, which will be 0. And then we can tap return one more time just to kind of set that block of code off from the rest of our code. All right, awesome. So we've got our 3 variables declared. We told Swift we've got these variables called team1 score, team2 score, and team3 score, and we're assigning the value of all 3 of these to 0 to start with. All right, we could take a quick look at our app preview over here. We won't notice anything happening yet because we just declared our variables. We didn't tell Swift to type anything on the screen for us. So I'm going to go ahead and close that back up again. Okay, next, let's start setting up our code that is going to control how our team name displays on the screen, that shows our current score and adds the button so we can increment or increase that score as our teams earn points. All right, so let's scroll down here and tap right behind that curly brace on line 17 and go ahead and tap return. Let's tap return twice just to separate our code here a little bit. Okay, on line 19, let's put 2 backslashes and a space, and let's add a comment here. Let's put in this next chunk of code. It's going to be a vertical stack. Again, as we get more used to using VStacks, we probably won't add a comment for this, but for right now, let's go ahead and put this comment in here just to remind us what our next block of code is going to do. Go ahead and tap return right there at the end of line 19, and then type in VStack with a capital V and a capital S. Once you see that code snippet pop up, you can go ahead and tap return, put in a space, and now we're going to add some curly braces. So go ahead and type an opening curly brace. That will give us the closing curly brace. Again, our error messages will go away. Swift just wants us to type a little bit faster. Let's go ahead and tap return. That's going to leave a blank line for us on line number 21. And here's where we're going to start setting up the code that will control how our team name and score displays on our screen in our app. So let's go ahead and add a comment here. So 2 backslashes and a space, and our comment is going to be score for Team 1. All right, inside a comment, we don't have to worry about camel case, so it's okay that we've got that space in there. Go ahead and tap return there at the end of line 21. And on our next line, type text with a capital T. Again, go ahead and hit return when that code snippet pops up. Then we're going to add a parenthesis, so type your opening parenthesis. That is going to give us the closing parenthesis. And now let's add a quotation mark. Again, don't worry about the error message. Just take your time typing. All right, inside our quotation marks, we're going to have some text displayed on the screen. So we need those quotation marks to tell Swift UI that what's inside of them is text. So Swift doesn't have to know how to process that text. It is just going to display it for us. All right, our text, let's say Team 1, and then let's just add some space, 3 or 4 spaces here. We're going to try to make this look good on the screen. So we might readjust it after we see how it looks, but 3 or 4 spaces, then the equal sign, and then another space. That'll allow a little cushion after the equals, maybe even 2 spaces, so that our score isn't squished right up beside it. All right, now we're going to actually display our variable on the screen. So we're going to type a /, not a backslash, but a /, and that is going to add in our score right beside Team 1 equals. Inside of some new parentheses, so type an opening parentheses, that's going to give us the closed parentheses. We're going to put our variable name, so Team 1 score. As soon as that starts popping up on our code snippets there, we can go ahead and tap return. And it's popping up for us because we declared that variable up at the top of our app. So Swift is recognizing that's a variable name. So go ahead and tap return, and our error message is going to resolve itself and go away. And the rest of our line of code looks good. Let's take a look at the app preview and see what that looks like. All right, hey, we've got Team 1 equals 0 right there on the score. So already it has got our score displaying correctly, because to start with, our score is going to be 0 until our team earns some points. Perfect. All right, let's make that a little bit bigger though. It's kind of small on the screen. So again, I'm going to close my app preview to give myself a little bit more space here. Right behind line 22, I'm going to tap behind that closing parenthesis, and I'm going to tap return. And on this next line, I'm going to put a modifier here. And in Swift, we start our modifiers that we use to format the text with a period. So type a period, and then it already knows we want font probably, which is correct. So go ahead and tap return. And it is giving us a size that it's calling title size. Let's open the app preview again and look at that. That looks pretty good. I like that size. It looks good there on the screen. Looks kind of nice. A lot easier to see now that it's larger. All right, awesome. I'm going to tap behind that parenthesis there at the end of line 23, and I'm going to add a little bit more formatting. So another modifier. Again, I'm going to start my modifier with a period, and then, yes, thank you, Swift, I do want bold. So go ahead and tap return when you see that code snippet pop up. And now if I look at my app preview again, awesome, it looks better. Now that font is large, it's title size, and it's bold. That looks pretty good to me there on the screen. All right, let's keep going. I'm going to close my app preview back up again. Okay, so we have our app name displaying on the screen. We have our team name and the current team score. Now we need to get a button on there, right? So we can increase this score. So let's add that button. And then to do that, eventually we want to have an add button to increase or increment the score, and a subtract button, right? Just in case we accidentally give points to the wrong team, or maybe we want to, I don't know, penalize a team for maybe getting an answer wrong or something. So we might want to take some points away from them. So eventually we'll have two buttons showing on the screen. So to do that, we're going to organize those buttons horizontally. So we've got a vertical stack going here to show our app name, and then our team names and our scores. Now we're going to organize those buttons horizontally so they line up right beside each other on the same line. So let's tap at the end of line 24 and go ahead and tap return. And then let's do 2 backslashes to put a comment in here, put a space, and we are going to have this next block of code is going to be a horizontal stack to organize our information. You could add more information if you're into your comment if you'd like, but I'm going to leave it as horizontal stack for right now. Okay, I'm going to tap return again, and now I'm going to type H stack with a capital H and a capital S. That's going to pop up H stack for me there in the code snippets. Go ahead and tap return. Let's put a space in there, and now we need our opening curly brace. That will give us a closing curly brace. Our error messages will go away, and let's tap return. That's going to give us a blank line for line 27. All right, perfect. Let's go ahead then and add our first button. So on line 27, we're going to start typing button with a capital B. And we're going to get a lot of options. We've been kind of taking the top option, but for this, we actually want the option that says button action label. So look for that option, button action label there on the code snippets, and then go ahead and tap return once you've got that one tapped on or highlighted. And now, when you tap return, it's going to insert that code for us right here in our H stack. All right, so we've got a lot of code here. We're going to have a button. It is going to have an action. It's also going to have a label that will be text. And right now, that label is button. Let me open up my app preview again. And hey, look, we've got a button there on the screen called button. Let me go ahead and tap that button. Well, it looks like it's tapping every time that I tap on it. It looks kind of flashy, like I'm tapping it, but nothing's happening to the score yet, right? Well, that's because we haven't told Swift what to do. what our action is going to be when we tap on the button. So let's do that. All right, so let me close my app preview again. And let me come in here and tap on that blue set of curly braces so that it's not selected. And now I'm gonna move right in between those. And once I've got my cursor in between the curly braces, I'm gonna hit return. And that's gonna give me this blank line for line number 28. Okay, so our action, we want to increment the score for team 1. So let's put a comment in here. So 2 backslashes and a space. This next block of code is going to increment score for team 1. Okay, go ahead and hit return at the end of that line. And to increment the score, we're going to start with our variable, team 1 score. That is going to pop up for us there. Go ahead and tap return. Let's put a space in. We're going to use the equal sign to mean assign the value or set the value to. And over here on the right side, the new value is going to be the old value, team 1 score, plus 1. So let's type that variable name again, team 1 score. Go ahead and tap return when you see that popping up there for you on the code snippets. Put a space in the plus sign and then 1. We're going to increment our score by 1. If you're playing Jeopardy or something like that, where all of the categories and answers are worth different variations of 100, maybe this would be 100 instead of 1, so that you could increase the score by 100, or tapping that button twice for 200, or 5 times for 500. But to make this simple for right now, let's just go ahead with 1 here for our score. All right, let's check it out. Let's open our app preview. Let's tap on that button, and hey, look, awesome. It is working perfectly. Every time I tap button, it is adding 1 to the team 1 score. So it's taking the first value of team 1 score, which was 0, and then setting the new value to 0 plus 1. And the next time I tap it, the value is 1. So when I tap the button, the new value is going to be 1 plus 1. And so on. For every time that I tap it, it's going to increment or increase that value by 1. Awesome. It's already a pretty high scoring game here with 30 points. Okay, hey, let's keep going. So right now our button says button on it. Let's change that up a little bit just to make this, I don't know, look a little bit nicer on our screen instead of just saying button there, because eventually we're going to have 2 buttons and we want to know what each one of those buttons does instead of them both saying button, right? So let me close my app preview again, and to change our button, I'm going to tap here on line number 31 where it says text and button, and I'm going to get inside there, inside of those quotation marks. I might need to tap it a couple times to change it from blue selected so that I'm not deleting the whole thing. If you accidentally delete it, just go ahead and retype it, text with a capital T, opening parentheses, quotation marks, and then button inside of the closing quotation mark and closing parenthesis. All right, so instead of saying button, I'm going to say add right here, right? Because this button is actually going to add to my score. All right, let's check it out. I'm going to open my app preview again, and awesome. All right. Hey, now that says add on it. And again, if I tap on it, every time that I tap it, it is adding 1 or increasing our score by 1. Perfect. Exactly what it should do. In the next part of our project, we will also add an image in here to, again, make this button a little bit fancier than just that plain text word add right there. And then we'll keep moving forward with our code to keep building up our Scoreboard app.